Hi everyone, welcome back. We're reading Mr. Gum and the Goblins by Andy Stanton, and if you remember, 'twas the dead of winter, and Polly, Friday O'Leary and little Alan Taylor they've just found Mrs. Lovely, who's been all duffed up and mangled, and they're trying to get to the bottom of what it was that attacked her. If you remember, Friday thought that it was badgers attacked her, and Polly's a bit more clever than him, and she suspects that it was goblins. So let's find out what's going to happen in chapter 3, which is called In the Court of the Goblin King. So let us go now, far, far from the room at the tavern where our heroes sit covered in goosebumps. Far, far from the high street where Martin Launderette is working on a very secret invention, which probably won't get explained until a bit later. Far, far from the woods on the edge of town where Friday's secret cottage lies hidden. Far, far from Lamonic Bibber, and away we go, over the frozen fields and streams, until we come to a place where the snow falls like Frankenstein's dandruff, and the wind howls like Dracula stubbing his big toe on a coffee table, where the way is hard and steep and twisty, and where no sunlight ever seems to fall. Goblin Mountain. Up the cold, bare mountainside we go, almost to the very top, until we come to a horrible, gaping hole, all ragged and torn from the rock. And there is a terrible din coming from that hole, like nothing ever heard before, for 'tis Goblin Cave, and 'tis ram-packed full of goblins. Big ones, weeny ones, sort of in-betweeny ones, goblins. Old ones, hairy ones, dirty great big scary ones, goblins. Giant ones, tiny ones, nasty little spiny ones, goblins. Stinky ones, clean ones. Not really, they're all stinky. Goblins. Yes, wherever you looked, it was tails and spikes and fins and fur and extra arms and knobbly knees and all sorts. One of the goblins even had 2 heads and sat there constantly arguing with himself. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Oh, and talk about badly behaved. Those goblins were always up to mischief, scratching and biting, hanging from the ceiling and gobbing on the ones below, cheating at Monopoly, you name it. The only time they ever shut up was when the Goblin King arrived to give his commands. And there he sat, right in the middle of all that chaos, sprawled on a great throne made from a rusty dentist chair he'd found on the mountainside one afternoon. His eyes were red and bloodshot, and his long, cruel fingers dripped with silver rings he'd stolen off old-age pensioners. And in his big red beard sat a dark green emerald, gleaming nastily. My word, those goblins loved that big fat jewel. "Shiny thing!" they'd cry whenever it caught the light. "Shiny thing! Shiny thing! Shiny thing!" All their shouting drove the Goblin King crazy, but he had to put up with it. It was just part of the job. At the king's side stood his partner in dirt, a shady character known only as Burger Wizard III. He wore a robe made from an old sack which said "low quality pork chops," and he was smoking a pipe full of mud. "Fancy a little puff, me old Goblin King," coughed the Burger Wizard, brandishing the pipe. "It's really nice," he lied through another cough. "Get lost, Flemmy," replied the Goblin King. "Where's me supper? I'm starving me face off here." "No problem," said the Burger Wizard, or BW for short. He reached into his filthy robe and pulled out a bunch of steaming chicken entrails. "Delicious," growled the Goblin King, swallowing them down whole. "Now, I got important kingy stuff to do." "Mighty Goblin Army," he commanded. "Tell me your news or I'll give you a Chinese burn." At this, the captain of the Goblin Army rang forward, his lieutenant at his side. "News good," Captain Ankles reported. "We attacked old woman and duffed her up." "Who cares about some stupid old woman?" roared the Goblin King. What I wants to know is how me evil plan's coming along. You built that tunnel yet? Nearly finished, squealed the lieutenant, whose name was Oink Balloon. One more day digging, then we finally there. That's more like it, snorted the Goblin King. Now for a nice long snooze. He closed his eyes and put his feet up. Shiny thing, screamed the goblins, pointing at the emerald in his beard and jumping up and down like carrot cakes. Shabba me whiskers, scowled the king. These creatures is noisy. Whoever thought leading a goblin army would be such a bother? And that's the end of chapter 3. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.